Hello, Jeremy.
Hello.
Hello, Thorfinn.
Alex, how you doing, buddy?
Doing interesting. How about you?
Pretty good. I'm managing to keep pretty busy. Working on solo improvements and stuff. Do we usually get any external attendance at this community call, Jeremy?
Mm.
Rarely. Rarely. Do other people from Hashgraph come?
Rarely. Most of the time it's just Alex and I, and then we end the call.
You know what? What I can do, Jeremy, is I can start preparing presentations for these. They're bi-weekly, right?
Um, is it about weekly or once a month?
Oh, once a month. Um, I'm happy to prepare like a presentation or demo for the next one and do slides and then like start inviting people to it. So we actually,
Maybe it is bi-weekly.
okay. The way we did this on some of my other open source teams is we would have these meetings. Usually this was the opportunity to like talk about at a high level stuff we're working on with other teams and like blockers we have. and help we need if we want people to like engage in the repo. And then we would open the discussion to like external community members. We'd record a YouTube video of it and then post it publicly. And we would kind of get a pretty rousing discussion usually and a bunch of action items or like requests from the community for the product when we had that kind of meeting. Um, if you go back and look on YouTube, you'll see all kinds of I have I have so many meetings on YouTube from stuff like that, and it's just arguing about all kinds of engineering decisions and stuff.
Huh.
But we can I can like prep a thing and start pushing people to actually join this call so that it's not just a waiting to see if people show kind of thing. Think you guys have something better to do with your time?
Yeah. Uh, I mean that, yeah, I mean that would be good if we can get something like that going or something. But yeah, so all right, well, and these are automatically recorded, by the way. So
Yeah, I figured. Do they give us like a method to record a session to a video and post it or anything like that?
I do not know. We have a lady that I think kind of manages our stuff. And then we have Hendrik, and so you can always ask Hendrik, and then he can tell you who to contact.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put that out there. That'll
Oh,
help us get
Keith joined. Oh, okay,
that'll help us get a little bit more reach.
sure.
Hello, Keith.
Well, we were
Keith,
about
we
to,
were just discussing the next time this calls up, actually having an agenda put together and inviting members from the community so we get a little bit more active participation in it. And potentially recording the calls and posting them on YouTube, that kind of thing.
yeah, you're muted, Keith. I don't know if you.
Sorry, I was just grabbing a coffee. Hey, I'm excited to join my first solo call.
Yeah,
We're
you're
ready
not
to end
missing
it.
much, Keith.
We're ready to end it till you join.
Yeah, an overall topic I've been working on with Torfin is how we do better promotion of these meetings. Also, Jeremy, has like Hendrik been working you on this good first issues topic? Because I do think that potentially we could get a lot of developers interested in working on solo. We probably just need some kind of setup and stuff.
I had some, and then he critiqued them, and I just because I didn't have time to be jacking with it, I was underneath the gun. I just removed the first time user tags. And so I haven't readdressed it because we're just really busy. And frankly, whenever we try to do get a new first user one, it's like more work because then you have to apply a template, you have to do all these things. I can't just write up a to-do like I normally do for my team, right? And
Yeah.
so I can assign that to my team and say, hey, convert this to do into, a proper one. But honestly, sometimes those they can literally code it faster than they can write up all the docs for it.
No, I do have that complaint about the Prestige. I think it's a lot of overhead. Can I just maybe I'll ask the premise though. I mean, my assumption is that Solo is a good target for outside contributors, but is it? Do you agree with that? Like, is it a good
It
project or is
depends. It
it?
depends. It depends because, like we occasionally do have things that could fit underneath that category. The problem is that we a lot of times there's a lot of complexities involved that they have no like it requires a larger ramp up. I mean,
Yeah,
if
Keith.
you look at our tech stack, I mean, we're using Kubernetes, we're using Helm, we're using TypeScript, we're using all these different libraries. I mean, it's pretty crazy. And then if I say, okay, go do the docs, well, we're using Hugo and we're using Doxy and we're using task file. And we've got some custom code in there to do certain things depending on what they're touching. And then our CI process, it runs on self-hosted runners. And most of our stuff is just calling task file stuff. And then we tried to introduce some Docker stuff, and then somebody is like, "Oh, let me do this," but they didn't do it right, and I gave them feedback, and then they didn't do the feedback, but instead they jumped to the next task, and then they half baked that one, and then left and abandoned us. So.
Okay.
Keith, I would say conceptually, the good first issue concept of letting people there's a subset of good first issue opportunities with Solo, which is people could build templated tests and designs for interacting with the network and scenarios using Solo. And I think that is like a great opportunity for people to explore the Hedera network, get a local network running, and actually walk through like what it means to write to mirror node and use it and stuff like
But
that.
that I don't think that's a like to me creating templates is not. I mean, we do want people doing real work, whether it's
Yeah.
like writing unit tests or like it doesn't have to be something complicated. It could be something very simple that Jeremy you just like is on your backlog and you can't be bothered doing like writing more tests or something like this, right? Like
Yeah.
just very manual work that nobody likes doing.
Well, and we every time anybody does submit, I always try to like, and Nathan is reinforced, like we definitely want people to contribute, and so I'm always really nice, and try to be like, thank you for contributing, and and all that stuff, and so if you look at almost anything that was done, you'll probably see me comment something like that, and sometimes though it's weird too because we'll get these like almost I don't know if they're bots that they'll generate or is somebody just trying to get a little bit where they'll just like do some type of like doc typo fix or a code typo fix, or a variable rename or something, just like super, super, super small. Like,
Yeah.
and the team is a little cautious about that because it's like, well, they may be trying to like, it might be a hacker or something like that that's trying to, weasel their way in. So, but Nathan and I, my work on this is review the code. If it looks fine, then merge it or run the pipelines and watch them like a hawk, and then because like the problem is like that we have to be careful for is if you do a contribution. And then we hit, all the code looks good, and then we hit the button to run the pipeline for it it opens a door and now they can push another commit and that could be harmful and it will automatically run it because it doesn't reset it and that's a complaint to the GitHub team. So anytime I do run, I have to go in there and watch it. But honestly, most of the stuff's just docs, and so all I do is typically is one of the first jobs is like a check style type thing on the docs. And once that completes, I'll just merge it. That way it doesn't run any of the other code anyway. So, and there's no reason to let it run it because they're just making a doc change. So,
I'll just explain why I asked that question because right now for good first issues we're targeting certain repos and it's starting with the SDK repos and the TCK within that and then there is the discussion we're having about well what should be next and so I was just wondering if Solo is a good candidate to be pushing for like the next repos we're pushing for the good first issues and mentorship projects and so I was just
yeah.
looking for your feedback on that. Is it a
I
good
mean,
candidate or is it not a good candidate?
yeah, I mean, some of our stuff could be potentially because it's just JavaScript and TypeScript, Well, it's TypeScript, but I mean, it's not 100% strict yet. Like we still are in the process of doing that as well as removing warnings, so that we can convert it to strict TypeScript. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the, DApp developers and stuff like that understand TypeScript. And so, and Node.js. And so I think like from that perspective, it's not that big of a gap and deal. And I think that's really what we're targeting, right? Is TypeScript developers because I mean, we don't have a whole lot of work on the Helm charts. We don't have a lot of work on the Docker containers. Those are actually in two different repos. And then we don't have a lot of work on the doxy stuff. Like, I mean, the content, sure, but not the actual stuff, like the CSS or the doxy theme or things like that. Um, so I think, yeah, you
But
just,
I don't think it's just tight. Like, right now our biggest project is the Python project, and it's just like people actually from all languages are coming to that project, more so because they want to contribute, and the only thing we really have available to them is Python. But like I would just say it's not just TypeScript. There's lots of different. I mean, we're interested in all comers, all languages. I
Yeah.
did have one other question back just on the structure of this. I mean, something I was surprised by was that not only do we have one community meeting for Solo, we have two community meetings. I mean, I do think, I
Uh,
mean, my
oh
feedback
no
to
no
him,
no. That
yeah,
that's a misleading. Solo Action is not owned by the Solo team. That's owned by Hendrik and his company. And in fact, Hendrik has thrown around the idea of moving that out of Hiero Ledger, and somewhere else. And
I
eventually, we have talked about the potentiality at some point of maybe our team taking over that repo and then ripping out that code that they generated and converting it into Node.js version of an action, because they did it differently. And yeah, so anyway, we've talked about it, but we haven't done anything with it. And so Hendrik and his company employees run that.
look, please forgive my stupidity. I did not know that. I don't even know what solo action is. I guess
It's a
my
GitHub
perception.
action that you can plug into your GitHub CI workflows.
Why is it called solo? I mean, I'm saying this just because it's going to be super confusing. Like somebody's like, "Oh, I want to contribute to solo," and then they see this thing called solo action. Like I'm confused. I mean, I was confused.
I think it has a little bit of history where Hendrik was trying to get it all started, and I think he was working with Nathan a little bit, but Nathan was like was slammed with all of these deadlines, and then I was slammed with all of these deadlines, and so he just basically spun it up.
Okay. I don't. Is it related to solo in any way?
Yeah, it basically what it does is it basically it it's a wrapper for Solo into a GitHub action. So when you do so whenever you build CI workflows, you can basically do like your own code using a run command,
Yeah. Okay.
or you can just load in an action. And so the action does all of the steps of setting up using Solo. It'll go in there and create the kind, the Kubernetes cluster, and then it'll start running all the Solo commands to start up a cluster, so that it can be hit. And so it's a wrapper so that people don't have to go in there and build their own little workflow or set of steps and stuff like that. So that's basically what it is. And then they added in a into that repo. He wanted to create like a separate one, and then he wanted to like just have us develop, or I don't know. There was a lot of going back about a Docker container for Solo, that would just do everything, but all you'd have to do is just basically start up a container. But we did a meeting with him maybe 2 weeks ago. Torfin was there, and we basically he gave we're like, why, what do you want to accomplish, like what is the end goal? And so when he started listing off all the things, we're like, we have all of that now. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah, what was
with
missing,
one
what we
shot
didn't have
and
was documentation describing how to do all of those things,
well,
which
and that was, yeah, and you fixed that. I just got to
my
merge.
PR's proposing that. Jeremy's
Yeah,
reviewing that PR today.
try to get that done today.
Trying to, yeah. Sorry, Jeremy, you got a lot. But
So
Uh,
I see LimeChain people are contributing to it. I wonder if that means that the SDK team is actually using this, or
well, so yeah, well, he's got one guy that's helping out with it, Georgie. I don't think Georgie's specifically assigned to this or anything like that. I think maybe his team is using it, and so they
yeah, his
will.
team's using it. They were stress testing it against local node because they're heavy local node users, and also they are the ones that were maintaining local nodes. So they had a big stake in kind of vetting Solo. They were making an argument about 6 months ago, Keith, trying to say that we should continue supporting local node. And there was a lot of back and forth in that discussion before we ultimately arrived at the outcome that you saw from Richard, which is we're not going to support local node. We need to go into slow deprecation and start focusing on getting solo performance up to par with local node.
Okay. I don't mean to be a distraction. So that you've answered my original question, like why do we have a solo action community group? So thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. I mean, anything else?
No,
But I do think,
like I've been working with Hendrik. Sorry, I think I started this and I got distracted about how we do better promotion of community groups. In particular, like we don't do really promote our community groups, which is why you're probably not seeing any external attendance in these meetings. So we have to do a better job to promote these meetings. So that again, I think a lot of people will be interested in solo, especially when we start pushing it towards users. So yeah, just how do we promote this meeting is a hot topic.
Keith, I was gonna, what I proposed before you joined the call was the way that I've done this in other open source communities is we kind of go out of our way on Discord and any public channels to let people know these calls are happening every time they happen. So we send like a notification out to the community. Hey, this call's coming up. Be sure to join. Here's the agenda, what we're planning on discussing. And we would usually bring engineering resources from different teams, either within our organization or externally to it, that are stakeholders in the product and let them duke out. Like, what are the issues you're having? And like, let's talk about what changes we can make and how we're prioritizing them, all that kind of stuff. Um,
Yeah, the challenge we have, Torfin, is that today we don't have any channels for that promotion beyond
um,
Discord, which is not a great promotion channel. So I think our action item was like to set up, we need a LinkedIn example for as an example for Hiero so that we can actually have a channel to promote things. Because otherwise, like how are we like it's
yeah,
not
where would you see it?
how are you going to promote it, right? So that's what was our action item was to set up a LinkedIn group for Hiero and then promote there.
I do think this is probably our one of our most valuable resources, and it's clear that it's not engaged yet. So I think we can improve that a lot. And it's not like a huge lift.
Yeah, I would just say though, the onus then goes, I mean, if we want attendance, then Jeremy will probably need like a formal agenda before the calls so that we can like publish it. Like, hey, there's a call coming up next Tuesday. Here's the agenda. Please join us. And it could just be like a standard agenda, like we just go through like different issues. But that's probably the one request to the maintainer of the calls. We'll need an agenda for each call.
Jeremy, one way to think about it is like the people that join these, what you're hoping for is external contributors that are looking for problems to solve. And oftentimes, the way I would structure these work group meetings with open source communities is here's kind of the biggest problems we're wrestling with right now, and enable community contributors to step in and say, oh, have you guys, and by community contributors, it's other teams at Hashcraft, right? Like, we kind of treat the SDK team, I mean, all these people that have like open source repos, they're contributors as well, right? Potentially. And so we bring outsiders into that discussion, and that way the community feels like they have a voice in how things are going within the development process. And simultaneously, you potentially get someone on board that is able to do something really well that you need support on, and you have your contributors. Um, but I would always start that discussion with kind of here's the biggest topics we have that are like cross-functional that we're wrestling with, and kind of going through how we're approaching them, and then following up with like these are opportunities for people to join in. And I would always invite people from other teams that have like blockers, like Steven or some of his team members might join and discuss some of the challenges they're having with requests we've made to them to do things on Mirror Node, or to compartmentalize services. Or someone from Consensus Node might join and discuss modularization and how it's a blocker for some of the stuff that they're working on. I haven't really seen that kind of pattern emerging here at Hashgraph, but that's how I've kind of done this
Uh,
at other open source.
Torfin, so I'd love to. No, no, I'm not sure I agree. I mean, to me, the focus of this meeting should be solo. So, like, what we're doing in the SDK community meetings, just talking about like it's kind of like a sprint meeting. Like, oh, well, these are the things we're planning to work on for solo in the next month. These are some design discussions we're having about like how we're going to implement this feature in solo. It's all very solo focused. I'm
Yeah,
not too
we
sure why we would talk about like mirror node in a solo call.
yeah, so I mean solo it's hard for me to not think about all the other services with solo because we're deploying them all. And
Yeah, but what impact does that have on the work, the week to week, month to month work that the solo team like is done on solo within the solo? I mean, it should all be within the context of the solo repo.
is Keith, these community calls, do you see them as like a an avenue to educate the community about like the longer term
No,
roadmap for a product?
no,
No,
no.
just
This is like
immediate.
your standard open source. Like we have a solo repo. This is the work going on for the solo project. This is how you can join in. This is how you can contribute. I mean, if there's education needed that informs that work, great. But that's not, in my opinion, that's not the purpose. Like the purpose of this call is to maintain the solo project.
Okay.
I mean, Jeremy, does
That
that align to your understanding?
It's good context.
is to say that again, to maintain the solo project.
Like the purpose of this community call is focused on the solo project and like, making the solo project better.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's focused on the solo project, and it's to me, it's how we can either get feedback from the community or work out issues with the non-hash graph employees. Or at if hopefully in the future we might have like a whole lot of contributors, and so they may not have access to the same meetings, or we might make this our primary meeting where all of the developers, not just the subset of Hashgraph employees meet. And so, I mean, to me, this is kind of flexible. And so, yeah, I could be like getting feedback. It could be developers. It could be talking engineering or architecture. Or I could talk about features that are upcoming or just released, or milestones or dates, or all kinds of things. So it could even be a little bit of training as well. To me, it's like we're just kind of open-ended for what the community is interested for and how to use this time. But it
Yeah,
is so,
exactly.
but it is solo.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So the conversation we've been actually having for other projects is actually for all of us to get into the Hiero mindset, for all solo maintainers to attend this meeting, and actually like the conversations that you guys have in the internal Hashgraph meetings. Like we move 80% of that content into the community meeting, and then what we say for the internal Hashgraph meeting is more like sprint planning, like, oh, we're going to work on this. Like that's not for external consumption. But everything else about like design discussions, problem solving, stuff like that should be in the community call and not in internal Hashgraph meetings. But
Uh,
that's something we're ongoing talking with Richard about is like how we move that content to like what do we keep in the Hashgraph meetings and then what do we move to the community call?
yeah, I mean, really, like, um, when you look at like, I guess maintainers, then there's Nathan and I, and so, you know, right now it's just him and I in our one-on-ones and things like that we're going to talk now. We're going to do a lot of work in February. We're going to do a lot of designing, and so we have a lot of meetings.
Well,
Um,
sorry, but you have I heard that you have four resources under you, Jeremy.
oh yeah, but like they're not listed as maintainers.
Oh, fair enough. But like even on the SDK meetings, the one thing we change is like all LimeChain people working on SDKs are expected to join the community calls. Like everyone working on the project, paid by Hashgraph, is expected to join the community calls. I mean, that's the kind of
Yeah, so
expectation that I'm
so
pushing for.
so our Lime Chain people, so like it's 5:31 here in Portugal, but it's like 7:30 p.m. in Bulgaria.
Yeah, maybe that's an issue that we'll have to move the call earlier
So,
if we want their attendance. So that's a great point. Yes.
and then if you move it up, let's say to even 4 p.m. their time, So then you subtract so 7:34. So you subtract 3 hours from that. And what time is it there now? Where are you at? Which time zone?
I'm at 9:30 PST. So like the SDK call, community call,
Oh,
we do it
yeah,
8
so
8
3
8
hours.
8
Yeah.
a.m. and then all
Yeah.
the Lime Chain people are able to attend.
Yeah. So I mean, I mean, you could, yeah. Um, Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, that might work out for some of the U.S. folks as well, because I'm not referring to the Hashgraph employees, but other employees, because like if they're employees at other companies because they've got other jobs, then if the meeting is like 8 a.m. their time, then it's maybe before work starts and they could actually like attend if they're not doing it as part of their core job. Some people they may like, they work at a company and their company is using our product. And so it totally fits inside the umbrella for them to attend our meeting while they're inside their work hours. But that
Yeah.
may not be the case for everybody, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think these are all great topics. I think this is just like this is the way we can again, I think solo could be a great, amazing Hiero project. It's just like this is the time when we don't have much attendance where we can do that kind of tuning, like change the meeting time, stuff like that, to make it work the best for everyone who's actively participating in the solo project, which in my mind includes the Lime Chain people.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and sometimes they would attend, but we a lot of times we were just ending the meeting because it was just
Yeah,
us,
I
and
get it.
this is like publicly recorded. So we're like, well, if we're just gonna like shoot the breeze or whatever, and then we actually like had a meeting like 2 hours ago. It was like a team meeting, so
Yeah.
we just
But
basically met and covered everything already. So
but that's what I was saying. Like we should. I mean, we talked with Nathan, but can we move topics that you cover in the team meeting into this meeting, and then you will have something to talk about, even if no one else external attends.
yeah, well, I
It's
mean.
open. It's an open question. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, and Torfin had some ideas too that he mentioned before you joined. So those also are great. So
Awesome.
uh, I guess I'm breaking up because I'm not hearing
No,
other.
I think Keith's breaking up right now.
Oh, okay, okay. I wasn't sure. Okay,
The internet's breaking up.
yeah, his face is frozen and his audio is very choppy and mostly not there. Okay, we lost him.
I think we're in pretty good shape here. The takeaway I have is we can start adding agendas to these, and I don't know, we can focus on what's inbounds or out of bounds for content, but I hate to like duplicate like planning meetings and stuff. That always kind of grinds my gears a bit because it's just like it's terrible to ask an engineering team to do a bunch of planning and figuring out priorities and all this stuff, and then kind of have a pretend version of that meeting for public consumption. Like, I don't, I don't really go for that mode. I think it's important maybe that we find out what the established criteria are for the goal of these meetings and try to reduce duplication across the meetings we have as a team as much as possible because I don't want you guys to have to like relitigate things over and over again. It just seems like your time could be better spent actually doing stuff. Um, but I'll talk to Keith about that, guys.
Okay.
But
Uh,
thanks for the invite. I think I figured out why I needed to request access from my Linux Foundation account to get an invite.
oh, okay. So you got it. Did you submit a PR or whatever and send tag me in it or whatever?
I haven't for the Linux Foundation account, no, but I just filled out the online thing on the page.
Oh, okay.
I
Is
think
it
I
like
think that'll do it.
okay.
It
All
looks
right.
like it'll do it.
All right. I see Keith joined back. Did you have anything, Keith, or are we ready to end the call?
Yeah, we I didn't have anything else. Sorry, my internet dropped, but
Thank
Uh,
you for this conversation, Jeremy.
no, I appreciate it. I appreciate you. We haven't, talked a lot. Um, so of your own interest, which it's solo related, so I think it's fine for this call would be is that, there's been a lot of some various comments, about ways we can improve solo, and we're keeping notes, and some of these we need to key in GitHub issues there, and some of them. Uh, I would say most of them would probably key and you have issues, but some of them might be like a priority zero. Some might be a prior like basically pants on fire. Like we'll try to knock that out like in the next day or so. Some of them are like P1, like next week or two, kind of ish, sort of. I don't know. And then some of them might be PT or P3. So it just depends on the particular item, and some of them might not be. It's just like confusing because it's a lot of work, and we have these immediate goals of prepping for what was it, Torfin? How were we wording that? The immediate goal is to get people off of local node, I think. Was that how the
Yeah,
word?
getting all the basically getting solo performance to um, parity with local node such that all the teams currently using local node for testing within Hashgraph can sufficiently leverage solo in its place. We want to get every single local node user off of local node and
And
onto solo.
what kind of deadline are we setting for ourselves to try and hit that target?
Um, I think April is kind of the latest, but by April we need external community members engaged as well. So um, I need to. Nathan kind of didn't elucidate the more clear
Yeah,
deadline. I think
so it's
there's
not a hard line in the sand sort of thing, but it is saying like, okay, so we're almost into February, so you got February, March, and then a little like maybe some of April, and so you got like 2 months, and so we're kind of like thinking like, what can we fit in 2 months worth of work, and so we have to be a little bit more selective. On what those items are. And so I would say P zeros and P ones will be like the ones that we'll target first, that would fit in that 2 month window. And then, P2s are like icing on the cake for that, sort of thing. Or if we run through all the P zeros and P ones,
I,
or they're signed out, and somebody needs another task. So yeah, so we're definitely paying attention to that. We appreciate your feedback as well as the people that are coming and tagging your name in some form or fashion. And then also we appreciate you taking a look and giving feedback on our docs and things like that. I got several PRs that I'm actually working on today to try and get ready to merge. And then once it's merged, it'll automatically update our site underneath the main. So like whenever you say releases, it has a drop down and you can choose like the main, I think it is, or something. And if you select that, that will reflect the changes. And then once we are all good and because we might have some more changes, but once we're good, we'll tag it and create the release artifact. And then the default page will shift to that new doc. So that's exciting because Pernalla did a lot of work. She you reviewed her PR and commented. So yeah.
yeah, I saw her comments. Yeah, I think we're gonna have a separate conversation about docs. I mean, I just want to say like yeah, Solo's an amazing product, and but yeah, we are in an accelerated future. I just want to come back to a comment you made earlier, Jeremy. There is a hard line in the sand. It depends what you meant by that word, but there is a line in the sand where we need to transition everyone to Solo. And if you, I'm happy to expand on that, but yeah, there is a line in the sand. Like everyone's got to switch over.
Yeah, yeah. So what I said was like it's not a hard line in the sand. Like there's not a like it needs to be April 1st or 13th. Like that number's not. I think it's more like, hey, it needs to be this, and it's somewhere mid-April because of this other reason, which is like following that and following that, etc. And so it's kind of like at some point it probably will become like a hard line in the sand. It's just not
I,
today. Torfin and I are kind of saying.
Maybe I can explain more about what I meant by hard. I think very soon we're gonna have to send out the notice to the community that local node is deprecating, and then like once we're ready, we're gonna have to send out a communication to the community like, hey, please switch over to Solo this version and above by this date. So that will be like the line in the sand because there will be official communications to the community like you gotta switch.
Yeah. Um, so that is, yeah, I mean, this is basically that's kind of the driving force. And so we need to basically get all this ready as soon as possible because people are going to need time to switch over before it gets essentially decommissioned or sunset or stop getting support and something moves to prod that breaks it, sort of thing. So I mean, right now it's on life support, and they're trying to only fix critical issues, which would be like something, that it needs to get fixed in order for, yeah, yes, Alex.
Just need to comment your and Keith's remarks. So solo performance, solo per se as a tool, performing okay. This is our product, which is consensus nodes, which is slow starting and slow performing. So just to clarify definitions, are you
Right.
uh,
I think
supporting
like
experiment that
work.
solo as a tool is working fine? It's just not JS tool. It's working okay. This is consensus node that's starting slow, right?
Well, so I think some of the complaint is how long it takes for Solo to start up. Now that's a different conversation because there's certain things that like for example Kubernetes takes easily 20 seconds depending on the machine to start from zero to create a cluster. Now assuming that's already done, then you have to start up and launch all the components. Now some of that's download, and we have some ways of basically like caching stuff so to get to offset some of that time, but then you've got starting things up from scratch, these container images and things like that. And then you've got Genesis. So there's, and then you've got bringing up all the things. So certain things can be done in parallel that are currently not being done in parallel. And then there's some things like we might be able to do is like have something set up to where you don't have to start from Genesis. And we think we have a lot of the commands already implemented. We just need to come up with an example that would allow the user to basically say like, okay, save the snapshot and now restore from that snapshot without bringing down all of the containers. So that would basically help out a lot of testers that need to go from they don't have to restart the whole cluster, and they don't have to restart all the components. They just basically like wipe the data and reset the data back to a certain point in time, and then they can run their tests, and then that will basically make things run a lot faster. And Torfin ran an awesome set of tests and documented it. And so local node does run a little bit faster, but it's like 13 minutes versus 17 minutes with a really large test set, not counting startup time. But part of that is because local node cheats and does a drive mount. And that drive mount cheat goes away whenever block node's fully integrated, and then local node's completely broke anyway. I don't know. Well, maybe not. I don't know.
There's definitely like a testing pattern discussion, Keith, that we need to get into, which is how we
So,
actually set up the tests, which can
Yeah,
greatly reduce that problem.
so
I don't
my
want to go
point.
into the I don't want to go into the test speed conversation, but I do think that we need to make the apples to apples local nodes versus solo startup time. I mean that is a very real comparison because Alex, like consent, both local node and solo are both starting up a consensus node, so we can negate that. So then we can just look at the pure time difference between local node, which is the current experience that users have, versus like now with solo. And I fully accept like we've added in Kubernetes that takes an extra minute. Totally get that. That still does not explain the difference we're seeing about like local node is like 3 to 4 minutes, and what we're hearing reports of is solo's 7 to 10 minutes. We're
Yeah,
missing some minutes there.
my point as a probably most kind of frequent and useful customer of solar. My point is, all this time is unavoidable taxation for happy life, so to speak. Maybe not, maybe it could be not a blocking priority, but second priority to fight them, because majority of slowness is, of course, consensus node. So I'm not complaining of these unnecessary steps in a solo. That's my point. And probably we need to convince other people, just don't be so picky. If it's a have to take a couple of minutes to start Kubernetes, it's unavoidable. My second question is, so if you're looking for customers, I just found the team. I found the team SREs that running HashSphere. They, for some reason, don't use Solo. They still deploying consensus node with Terraforms and direct Helm charts. That's kind of good team to join Solo. I do my best to convince them to switch to Solo, by the way.
Wait, which the HashSphere team?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they've got it seems like almost completely custom solution. They're still using Solo, but they're using it in a very different way than
Well,
the way
Nathan and
we
I met with them recently about what they're doing and what the plan is. And so there's certain functionality inside of Solo that they need. Uh, but because of certain behaviors of Solo, it's not ideal. And so we talked about it, and the functionality they need, actually, we need to move it into solo operator anyway. And so we talked about speeding up the timeline of solo operator so that
yeah.
they can switch over to that and they would use solo operator and not solo. And then solo would basically remove that logic and integrate solo operator so that it removes a duplication of logic basically, which is a good thing. But solo operator is planned to be rewritten from Java to Go because of a couple of reasons. Well, I don't know all the reasons, but one of them is that the two primary developers are very they're Go's their primary language of skill set. But also Kubernetes is written in Go, and so a lot of the libraries are the like error handling and all that is way superior if you're using Go directly as a programming language to develop your operators, Kubernetes operators. And so those two reasons are like the primary reasons, but there's other reasons as well. But yeah, so they'll probably real rapidly move that over into Go and then accelerate removing the duplication of logic to get it out of Solo into there. And then the SRE team will basically switch over to using Solo operator instead of some custom code that they had used that does basically the same logic that's in Solo. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we should talk on the side about that. I actually
that's a
have
simplified overview, but anyway.
I have a version of Solo running in Rust right now.
You
It's
have
all completely deploying in Rust, the Kubernetes operator.
the
I'll show
Kubernetes
it to you
operator,
sometime. It's a side project, but
the solo operator, or what?
and not including the operator. I actually repackaged
Oh, well,
Solo.
Solo's currently not using the operator. We haven't integrated it yet.
Yeah, I refactored with Rust just to see what kind of speed and kind of improvements. I haven't done like a full side by side comparison test, and I wasn't gonna bother you guys with it, but I was curious to see if it could pull nodes faster and do that kind of stuff because of its memory handling capabilities. But that's a side conversation.
Okay, well, um, I mean a lot of the times with Solo are not from the Solo tool, like the TypeScript code. It's from things that are happening inside the Kubernetes cluster.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, I mean, you can only squeeze so much. But there is a lot of things that we can do to speed up like the startup time, but I don't think it's going to reach, 10 or 20 seconds ever. But and I don't know even know what like I can't promise anything because I have no idea what can be squeezed out. I just know that some of the thoughts that I have can squeeze things out. I just don't know how
It's
much.
just because that's false. We no, at least for this, for the Q2 or Q3, we're not talking about 20 seconds. We're talking about like under 4 minutes or under 5 minutes. That's the time. Trying to get it somewhat close to local no.
By Q what?
Well, I mean, I think we're still trying to define the targets, but yeah, I think that's an improvement we'd like to see sooner rather than later. Because if we roll this out to the entire community and then they start complaining about startup times, and yes, we can fully justify, oh, we've moved to Kubernetes and stuff, but like I don't know how happy they're going to be. So if we can address this and just get startup time down, again, not to seconds, to minutes, to something, reasonable, I think that will be help the situation that for that April, May, June transition.
Yeah.
Cool.
All
But
right.
yeah,
Well,
lots of great stuff to think about. Thanks for the updates. I really appreciate it.
yeah. Okay. It's getting close to time, although it's not exactly time. Is everybody good? Um,
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jeremy. And Alex.
Absolutely. I appreciate the participation. Yeah, it's good. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye.